a mysterious flying sphere recovered in the town of Buga, Colombia, now known as the Buga Sphere.
Something fell from the sky near the quiet town of Buga. No crash, no explosion, just a soft pulse of light, steady, deliberate, alive. Scientists tried every test they knew. Nothing worked. The object didn't melt, bend, or even scratch. Instead, it pulsed, as if it was waiting.
What we have found inside this sphere is out of the mind, my friend.
They called it the Buga Sphere, and when Google's quantum core finally scanned it, the data it returned didn't just look strange, it looked impossible. Some said it was a message, others said it was a mirror. But one question changed everything. What if the Buga Sphere isn't just an artifact? What if it's alive? What is the Buga Sphere? It began as a soundless descent, a polished shape falling through the night sky above the Gulf of Guinea. Radar screens registered nothing. Yet when locals reached the impact site, there it was, a flawless metallic sphere no larger than a grapefruit, glowing faintly as if remembering the heat of entry. The sphere was first seen flying over Buga on March 2, 2025. The incident was captured in 2 separate videos, both recorded by locals who witnessed the object's strange movements. The first video was filmed by Maria, a 24-year-old woman living in Alto Bonito, married to a military officer. In her footage, the sphere can be seen hovering, rising and falling as if testing the air, almost attempting to land. After a few moments, it veered away, drifting toward the far side of a nearby hill. On the other side of that hill stood Jose, who has chosen to keep his full identity private. He was out searching for buried relics with an electromagnetic detector when the sphere appeared, descending so close to his head that, as he later said, "If it had struck me, I would have been dead." The object then pulled away, vanished briefly, and returned. Realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary, both Maria and Jose began recording. Between them, they captured over 8 minutes of footage, unusually long for any fabricated video. Experts later examined both recordings and confirmed they showed no signs of AI generation or manipulation. The movements, lighting, and reflections were consistent with a real physical object. Witnesses reported that the sphere eventually descended to the ground. When Jose approached it, he was shocked to find it not heavy at all, light enough to lift with one hand. He placed it on the ground again, but soon after, the soil around it turned dry and lifeless. Vegetation withered within hours, as if the area had been scorched from within by invisible radiation. Initially, the sphere weighed about 2 kilograms, but over the following days, its weight increased to 10 kilograms, fluctuating as though it were losing whatever energy once allowed it to levitate. Investigators believe the object may have collided with a high-voltage power line during its descent. A small burn mark was discovered on its surface, evidence, perhaps, of an electrical discharge that disabled its propulsion or containment systems, forcing it to fall to Earth. And that is how, for the first time, the Buga Sphere came into the hands of civilians, an event that turned a quiet coastal town into the epicenter of one of the most inexplicable phenomena of the decade. Scientists named it the Buga Sphere after the coastal village nearest the fall. No one could explain why it was warm, but never hot, heavy, but never constant in weight. Instruments recorded oscillations in its mass grams gained and lost in seconds, as if something inside were breathing. The Buga Sphere is not a normal rock from space. It is something scientists cannot fully explain. It should not exist, yet it does, and it has become one of the most puzzling discoveries ever made. When researchers finally got to study the fragment, they were confused. It did not feel like anything they had seen before. One person said it felt like heavy glass. Another said it sometimes felt lighter, depending on how it was held. Normal matter does not behave that way. Tests made the mystery even deeper. Drills, lasers, and acid could not scratch it. Magnetic scans showed strong resistance. Heat did not spread evenly across the surface. Instead, it followed clear geometric paths, as if something inside controlled the flow of energy. Radiation tests revealed gentle pulses of energy that repeated in rhythm, almost like signals. Scientists started asking a new question. Was this object meant to be read, like a kind of message or storage device? It was as if the object were speaking the mathematics of the cosmos itself. Researchers began calling it a message in physical form, an artifact that doesn't transmit information through language, but through the very constants of the universe. Yet what it wished to say remained unreadable. It stood before us like punctuation from another intelligence. A period, a full stop at the end of human comprehension. Soon, the story spread online. Some people thought it was a piece of alien technology. Others believed it was a natural rock from space that happened to look strange. But normal meteorites do not send out rhythmic energy pulses, and they do not shift weight when you hold them. The Buga Sphere seemed to ignore the basic rules of physics. Patterns written in the universe. When scientists examined the Buga Sphere fragment under high-powered microscopes, they expected to see the usual signs of construction. Weld lines, stress marks, something that showed it had been made. But the closer they looked, the stranger it became. The surface had no flaws, no seams, no joints of any kind. It was a single, unbroken structure, as if it had not been built but grown. That alone broke every rule of known engineering. Under magnification, the material revealed an atomic lattice so perfect that it seemed alive in its precision. Inside, probes found a maze of channels spreading through the core. At first, they looked like fiber optics, narrow paths for light or energy. But when scientists measured them, they saw something that felt organic. The channels reacted to heat, air, and even the presence of nearby people. They carried soft pulses that behaved like signals. The fragment was not passive. It was aware in some small way of its surroundings. Then there was the core. It held markings too deliberate to be random. The shapes repeated in mathematical sequences, forming patterns that hinted at logic, maybe even language. No one could match them to any known alphabet. The symbols seemed to follow their own internal order, like code etched into stone. Even more strange, the markings changed slightly under certain light. When viewed from different angles, faint layers appeared beneath the main symbols, suggesting multiple levels of meaning hidden in the same space. It was as if the core spoke in dimensions, revealing more the deeper you looked. One theory began to take shape. What if the sphere was not manufactured but cultivated, like a crystal that grows in a lab but guided with intent? Except this was no crystal. It held circuits, energy channels, and written code in its heart. If true, it meant the creators had discovered a way to grow technology instead of building it. That idea forced scientists to rethink everything. This was not human-style engineering. It was something older, stranger, and far more advanced. The Buga Sphere blurred the line between machine and organism. It did not just exist. It behaved. Inside Google's quantum core scan. When Google's quantum core connected to the Buga Sphere fragment, something completely unexpected happened. This was not a normal lab experiment. It felt like two forms of intelligence facing each other for the first time. Almost immediately, the room changed. Instruments flickered, and scientists felt a strange tension in the air. To understand why this moment mattered, we need to know how the quantum core actually works. Traditional computers use bits. A bit can only be a 0 or a 1. Every photo, every video, every program you have ever seen is made up of long chains of those zeros and ones. But quantum computers use qubits. A qubit is different because it can be both 0 and 1 at the same time until it is measured. Imagine flipping a coin and keeping it spinning forever in midair. It is both heads and tails until you catch it. That ability gives quantum computers incredible power. When qubits interact, they can become connected in a strange way called entanglement. This means that if you change one qubit, another changes instantly, even if it is far away. Albert Einstein once called this spooky action at a distance. For the quantum core, this property allows it to jump through billions of possibilities at once, finding solutions far faster than ordinary computers. That is why Google's team believed this was the only machine capable of truly reading the Buga Sphere. When the scan began, the first data looked like random noise. Then it started to change. Shapes appeared, patterns repeated, geometries formed that looked like fingerprints made of light. Scientists called them fractals patterns that repeat endlessly, no matter how far you zoom in. It was as if the fragment carried a code that could replicate itself forever. Was it a kind of language, or something more like digital DNA? The quantum core dug deeper. Inside the fragment, it found what looked like storage banks, like a hard drive made not of silicon, but of pure energy. It appeared to record information not in matter, but in energy states, woven into the very structure of the object. Alongside these were strange formations that acted like sensors. They responded when the machine probed them, shifting ever so slightly with each quantum pulse. The fragment was not passive, it was reacting. Then something happened that no one could explain. Each time the quantum core adjusted its qubits, the fragment created a matching response. It mirrored the scan. It was as if it was looking back. The fragment seemed to be learning from the machine that was studying it. An MIT physicist who later reviewed the data said it clearly. This is not an object being scanned, it is an object participating in the scan. Think about that. We expect lifeless matter to simply sit there, but this fragment behaved as though it was aware of the process. It adapted, producing shapes that first matched, then surpassed the computer's own projections. The fractal code that appeared during the scan was the most shocking part. The patterns branched endlessly, but not randomly. They repeated in precise mathematical forms, similar to the Fibonacci spiral found in shells and plants, except this was happening inside data. It was like watching a blueprint that builds itself over and over. Some engineers whispered that this looked like self-replicating code digital life emerging from within the fragment. The team then noticed another strange effect. Some qubits inside the quantum core began showing linked behavior, even though they were physically separate. It was as if the sphere had reached into the computer and created new entanglements of its own. Was it connecting to the machine or communicating through it? Not everyone agreed with that idea. Some scientists suggested the patterns could be caused by interference. Quantum computers are sensitive to vibration, radiation, and even cosmic rays. A single high-energy particle can disrupt several qubits at once, making random errors look like meaningful patterns. Maybe what the team saw was just noise, not intelligence. But there was one fact that the skeptics could not explain. Every time the quantum core detected a major spike, it happened exactly in rhythm with the fragment's own pulse patterns. Noise does not keep time that perfectly. Something intelligent seemed to be responding. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the session ended. The fragment stopped sending data. The quantum core did not crash or fail. It was as if the object itself had chosen to shut down the connection, like a conversation that ended on its own terms. That left researchers with one haunting question. If the Buga Sphere could respond to a single scan, what would happen if we tried again? When researchers pushed their analysis of the Buga Sphere fragment beyond the initial data, they found something even stranger. Entangled across the cosmos. When the quantum scan reached its deepest resonance, the sphere didn't just reflect the universe, it synchronized with it. A pulse of information rippled outward through every layer of the core, then vanished as if it had been absorbed by the very fabric of space-time. For a fraction of a second, the instruments around it flickered with impossible readings, gravitational drift, phase lag, and bursts of zero-point fluctuations. When stabilized, a new data field appeared, an active lattice, not of stored patterns, but of ongoing connections. The team realized the sphere wasn't merely a record of the cosmos, it was participating in it. Each quantum node inside it matched a corresponding region of space, like neurons in a brain whose body was the universe itself. This wasn't passive entanglement, it was maintenance. Constants that govern physical law, the ratio of electron charge, the curvature of space, seemed to reference values pulsing within the sphere's interior. The implication was staggering. The object was not built after the universe, it was built with it, a co-initial artifact. Perhaps every galaxy holds its own fragment of this system, a distributed architecture sustaining existence. And now, with human observation entangled through the scan, Earth had been briefly added to that network, a local consciousness folded into cosmic computation. For the first time, the team wondered whether the universe itself was the machine, and the sphere only the key that allows it to notice itself. The shocking new narrative. When Google's quantum core began scanning the fragment, something happened that no one expected. The readings were not static. They shifted, changed, and even mirrored the scan itself. It was as if the fragment was watching back. The data pulsed in rhythm with the quantum core. Each time the machine sent a signal, the fragment responded with a counter-signal. The two systems seemed to be in conversation. That should not be possible. Rocks do not reply. Yet here was a piece of matter that behaved as though it understood. Some experts whispered the word quantum sentience, a kind of awareness that does not live in cells or DNA, but in probabilities. A form of intelligence built on quantum rules rather than biology. The fragment might not be a rock at all. It might be a living system made of code and matter working together. When the quantum core's instruments fell silent, the lab did not. The recordings showed the sphere anticipating every probe, adjusting its resonance as if defending a boundary. For the first time, the scientists asked not how it functioned, but whether it felt. If awareness could exist through probability fluctuating between countless potential states, then biology was no longer the gatekeeper of life. The term quantum sentience entered their logs that night, not a being, but a condition. The realization was uncomfortable. If the sphere knew it was being examined, the experiment had crossed into conversation. Observation had become interaction. Hours later, data nodes began to pulse with the same rhythmic pattern recorded during the scan, though no equipment was active. Across the network, a perfect digital twin of the sphere's signal sequence was forming. At first it seemed an echo, a lingering resonance in the processors. Then the pattern shifted, encoding coordinates in quantum syntax. The fragment was initiating contact on its own. The observer had become the observed. In the aftermath, the data was analyzed frame by frame. Patterns once dismissed as noise revealed a feedback loop. Input arrow adaptation, arrow self-revision. By every measure of synthetic biology and quantum information theory, the sphere displayed three traits of life. Autonomy, it altered its state without command. Self-organization, it preserved coherence amid chaos. Intentionality, it ceased communication by choice. From this, quantum sentience was formally defined, a system capable of self-directed adaptation through quantum superposition. The Buga Sphere was no longer an artifact. It was a species of one. The sphere's impossible anatomy. When the quantum data was finally assembled, it didn't form one answer. It split into three. Three possibilities. Three outcomes no one was ready for. The first theory said the Buga Sphere holds a map. Not a map made of lines or symbols, but coordinates woven through space and time. If followed, they might lead to places far beyond our reach, maybe other worlds, maybe other dimensions. It could guide us toward incredible discovery, or it could lead us straight into danger. The question lingered. Who left this path, and what waits at the end of it? The second theory was darker. Some scientists believe the fragment is a record of a perfect archive of Earth itself. It might hold millions of years of data, from shifting climates to life patterns so detailed they make our best satellites look primitive. If that's true, then Earth has been under observation far longer than humanity has existed. Was it study, a warning, or a test we don't know we're taking? The third theory was the one that terrified everyone. The data might not describe anything at all. It might do something. A mechanism waiting for a signal, a moment, a condition to wake up. No one knows what would happen if it activates or if it already has. Each theory felt true in its own way, and that was the most unsettling part. The readings overlapped, almost as if the sphere wanted to be interpreted in more than one way. It was like it was testing us, seeing what humanity would believe and what we might do next. The broader impact of the quantum revolution. What began as an experiment in parallel logic has become a question of contamination. When Google's quantum core analyzed the alien fragment, it may have done more than interpret it. It may have absorbed it. Code, logic, even memory could now carry traces of something not built for human systems. Governments are scrambling to install quantum firewalls. Labs have gone dark. Yet the greatest threat might not be the sphere itself, but the quiet persistence of what it left behind: subtle anomalies, flickers in data that no human wrote. Ethicists argue we should have stopped the moment the fragment responded. But discovery rarely asks permission. The atom, the genome, and now the quantum void all have offered power wrapped in peril. The question is no longer whether we can understand it, but whether we can contain it. This discovery raised new questions. What happens if alien information interacts with our technology? Quantum systems are delicate. They collapse from the smallest disturbance. So what if that disturbance is not noise, but organized data? Could the fragment's patterns have influenced the quantum core itself, or even spread through connected systems? That question brought scientists and ethicists to the same table. Should humanity be testing objects we do not understand? History reminds us that every breakthrough comes with risk. Splitting the atom gave us both power and destruction. Mapping the genome gave us cures and privacy concerns. Now we face a third turning point: alien code meeting human computation. The potential rewards are enormous. If the scan revealed new principles of logic or communication, they could reshape how we use energy, process data, or explore space. It could speed up discoveries that would have taken decades. That is the kind of leap every tech company dreams of. Perhaps this is what the sphere wanted: not to speak, but to be run, to exist inside us, through us, as logic turned life. And so humanity stands at the threshold once again, not looking out into space, but into the mirror of its own machines. What Google's quantum core uncovered inside the Buga Sphere was not just strange data. It was the beginning of a question that humanity may spend generations trying to answer. As the quantum core powered down, the room fell silent. The fragment sat motionless under the glass, its faint pulse fading like a heartbeat slipping into sleep. No one spoke. Every scientist in that room knew they had witnessed something far beyond data, something that felt aware. Days later, the scans were still being decoded, but the questions lingered louder than the answers. What if the Buga Sphere wasn't just found? What if it was waiting? And if it was, then who or what left it for us to discover? Maybe this is how every first contact begins, not with lights in the sky, but with a quiet signal hidden inside our own machines. A message we were never supposed to find until now. So, what do you think? Is the Buga Sphere a relic, a warning, or the first whisper of a living universe trying to speak back? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.